Department Kensler.
And before we get off to our third match of the day, Cloud9 versus Dignitas, I'd like to welcome to the desk TSM's Dyrus.
So Dyrus, you guys had a very nail-biting game, kind of your fourth nail-biting game in a row now in the LCS. How do you keep focused where you're down a whole bunch of kills early on and it seems really rough?
Well, from the moment I noticed that we started dying, and then we got our blue buff stolen, and then people were dying 2 versus 1 lane, then we lost every tower, and then I'm like, all right, I'm Jace, I can carry this.
So is there anything special when the early kills are going to an Evelyn on the other team that goes through your team chat or anything?
Yeah, our team isn't, as you can see, our team's not as used to playing against Evelyn, and when she gets really fed, she's always an unknown factor. So when Reggie's split pushing, he doesn't know if he's there or not. So when he goes in and Evelyn's there, it's like, well, I'm screwed. But it also takes pressure off the map, so it's not so bad. The other thing about it being a nail-biting game is that we've had far worse nail-biting games where I'm feeding, and like against CLG, like I kind of realize, and I kind of give credit to CLG in the fact that they have to go through these pressured games like all the time, whereas there's games where we have that end in like 20, 30 minutes. Like, I think the experience from that really helped me out.
So talk to me then about how you went to go carry about the game as Jace. You said, you know, we're behind, but I'm Jace, I'll carry. So start with the laning phase. You were up significantly over Chris in minion kills. Was that because Jace's range, or is there something special you do?
It's not really anything special. Since Chris and Evelyn got and NK got like tons of kills top, and they didn't lose their tower, he actually gets less farm. And what this does is they snowball the game by going middle, going top, getting the third tier. But during all this time, I have nothing else to do. If I push up, they'll just farm. If I slowly push up, that's something I learned from Voivoi, where you just kind of farm up. I just slowly push it, and then I go back to my team and wait till it gets pushed back. So I don't think he was doing a good job going to find the waves where the waves were building up. Because right now, where he needed to be when that wave pushed back was bottom, but they gave all the farm to Ryze. So you'll notice that Ryze was completely like dominant in that game in terms of farm, and he had tons of armor, and that's why Elise was kind of far behind. I don't know if it was a team strategy or it's just because Elise doesn't need as much farm because she has her percentage.
So then how'd you go about carrying the game as Jace? You've got really good long-range poke, you've got burst damage there, but in team fights you're not going to have the same damage as like a 6-item Caitlyn, so how do you carry as Jace?
Step 1 is not dying. I like to not die. And step 2 is making sure that you don't die by buying the correct item and itemizing well. You have to itemize perfectly. You have to hit all your pokes. And first of all, let me talk about my item build. Hex Drinker, they have AP, you know, Elise, Evelyn, Ryze, and even like the Sona damage. And then you have a strong, hard-hitting hitter like Draven. I got Evelyn, I got Hex Drinker, and I overextended to the point where I would notice them to, like, you know, go on me, but I would still survive because I had Flash, and my Hex Drinker would save me, where you might have noticed a couple of times. Then the next item I bought was Merc Treads, because they have lots of catch. They have Sona, they have Elise E. There's multiple times where I've been hit by Elise E, and I'm just sometimes trying to bait it out, but at the same time I'm kind of scared because I don't know the unknown factor of their Evelyn being super, super strong. And then moving on, there's the Brutalizer. I needed a CDR. If you don't get Ionia boots, then you need CDR. So instead of rushing Last Whisper like Zion Spartan would for the late game, I just had to like go all in for the early game and slowly poke. And what creates the advantage for me to carry is by poking their squishies. Poking Draven does nothing because he has lifesteal, but the key was to poke Sona and Ryze or whoever else that doesn't have as much sustain as Draven, and that slowly got us, like, you know, one of the dragons. You might, if you rewatch the game, and it becomes scary because if I miss my poke, we can potentially lose, and if I get caught, we lose. If I die, we lose. If I don't auto attack correctly, if I don't bait correctly, or if I don't flash at the correct time, we could lose. There's even another potential time where they're all low bottom where I could have just flashed and EQ'd, but I was just too scared. And that's just picking up the kills where they're really low and sniping them, just like with Caitlyn and JC Blast, and then there's those annoying spiders getting in the way. But that's just a lot of stuff going through my head.
Cool.
All right, so You guys also had a rough late game, last week at MLG Anaheim. Has anything changed with your objective callings when you get to the late stages, when you have like exposed inhibitors and stuff?
No, it hasn't really changed at all. What has changed is that when I play against CLG, in my mind, I'm thinking I have to play hard to carry, and that's not how I should be thinking. I needed to trust my teammates and just go with the safe pick and farm and play normally, but instead I was over ignorant. Like Nine's a newer top laner and one of his best champions, at least, hands down. Like, there's no denying that. And Kennen loses at least very hard unless you beat him at level 1. But anyways, what my mindset changed is I just need to go even and do my job. I don't need to go out of my way to do anything extraordinary. And just being calm and team morale. Because last week, our team morale, like even during that Baron fight when they almost aced us and they got Baron, I think, our team morale was like near 0. And during that last fight, no one talked at all. You can hear them calling out targets. And I'm looking at the fights like they're not winning as hard as I think they are because they're loud, they're yelling. It helps the morale. And I'm just trying to keep a cool head. So, when we're dying, I'm like, we can still go back into this. The moment they died top, I was like, we got late game, I kind of learned that from Zion Spartan too, but, just a bunch of stuff I'm taking from everyone.
Cool, Dyrus, thank you very, very much, and I'm glad you got to keep a clear head and carry that game. Congratulations on your victory. Now, guys, of course, we've got more action today, so it's time for our third match. It's going to be Cloud9 versus Team Dignitas. Now, both these teams